Why, hello, folks. Today we're going to be talking about a topic I've talked a bit about before in a couple of previous videos. That is stuff relating to the new player experience and how that can be improved in certain ways, because I think it needs to be improved.
What are you thinking about?
It's a pretty common complaint about Warframe. One of the most common complaints, actually, is that it's very hard to get into for a new player. That you get overloaded with information, there's way too much stuff just thrown at you from the beginning, there's not enough good tutorials, it takes too long before you get into the actual sort of like storyline and things, so you might not be able to like hook and captivate people early on. There's some struggles with going to the open worlds and being met with too high-level content immediately, stuff like that. You know, there's a bunch of stuff people have brought up over the years. All of these are valid, and constantly people are like, you know, the new player experience needs an overhaul. They added a cutscene and they fixed or changed the first initial sort of missions a little bit, but it's like it's not great. One of the biggest things they did, obviously, was put the sort of like quest thing up here, telling you what you were supposed to do. But even then, it's like, you know, just a thing as like, oh, you're supposed to hover. Shut up, Lich. Shut up, Lich. Lich, shut up. Not now, Lich. Okay. So even such a thing as like just the idea that you're supposed to hover your mouse over the junctions and it tells you what you need to do to get to the next planet. Like, that's not even like explained anywhere. But I'm gonna bring up something different. Something that is just as big of a problem and honestly should probably be reformed completely. And that is the energy economy. Yeah. Not the first thing you might bring up, but I think it's one of the bigger things in this game, which is sort of a struggle for new players. There are two games, okay? There are two Warframes. I'm straight up. There is Warframe 1 and then there is Warframe 2. You know what that is? I'll tell you what that is. That is Warframe before you get Arcane Energize and Warframe after you get Arcane Energize. Those are two completely different games. And as a veteran player, it's kind of hard to remember what the game was like before you had Arcane Energize. But as a new player, you start out with your Neato Excalibur, and he looks, yeah, it's normal Excalibur. I haven't done anything with him. Here, he looks like this, okay? And
you have remembered well.
You go into a mission. You have 150 energy at max, but you don't have any energy at the start of the mission. And then you gotta pick up these little blue energy orbs, and once you've picked up like 2 or 3 of them, where it's like, oh, now I can cast one of my abilities like once. Like, that's it. And then I have to wait until I pick up another couple of blue orbs before I can cast one of my abilities once. Excalibur isn't even the worst one, because you can activate the Exalted Blade and then you can just keep that active for a while and kill a bunch of things. But for something like Volt, like you wouldn't even use Volt's number 4 ability. It just drains way too much energy and stuff like that. And that's sort of a kind of like the reason why it takes a long time for people to understand just how good Mag is. Because, hey, Mag needs energy. If Mag can't use her abilities a whole lot, then all she is just something that runs around with weaker sort of like base stats than Excalibur. But as soon as you get Arcane Energize, the entire game unlocks, because now you just have energy all the time, and you can cast your abilities all the time, and you get that feeling of, oh, this is what the game is supposed to be like. This is what it's like what it's supposed to feel like to play the game. There's so much stuff about the energy economy that's only available to veteran players. You have arcane energize. That's one thing. Here's another thing. Most people don't even know about this. Most veterans don't even know about this. Do you see how I've put a forma in every slot even though I don't need to, so that I have 12 excess capacity on my Warframe? Do you know what excess capacity does on a Warframe? Excess capacity determines how much energy you start the mission with. so if it's at 0, you start the mission with like only the minimum amount of energy. But if I have this much excess capacity, I start the mission with like 150 energy or something. I start with like, I don't know, what is it, 65, 70% of my total. Yeah, people don't know about that. So to everyone who just learned that for the first time, you're welcome. But this is an issue. Like, I saw someone on the subreddit talk about that, and he was like, I am a new Warframe. I am a new Warframe player. I came over from Destiny because I was kind of sick of it and wanted to try something new. I started playing Warframe. He's like, what do you mean I can only use like one ability every 5 minutes? What do you mean my abilities are not on a cooldown and I can just use them to my heart's content? What? And he was like shocked that that's how the game was built up. And it's weird because like you eventually you reach a point where you don't have to play that way anymore when you get Arcane Energize. So obviously the game is designed around the idea that you have energy, but new players don't have energy. They don't get to experience sort of like the cool stuff of having different Warframes. So for new players, it's like there's not a whole lot of difference between Warframes. It doesn't matter if you run with an Excalibur or an Oberon or a Banshee, or a whatever, because you don't have any energy, so you don't get to use the abilities anyway, so you don't get to sort of experience how all of these Warframes are different from each other. Like, obviously, you can always do well with a Rhino, right? Because Rhino, you can collect enough energy to where you can cast Iron Skin, and then you're fine. Because Iron Skin is just going to be active for the entire mission, and yeah, you have that, so you cast one ability. But it's so weird that like this is how the game is built. I understand that we're not doing cooldowns because that's Lavos. Like that's the cooldown Warframe. But in a way, that actually makes Lavos one of the most beginner-friendly Warframes. In many ways he's not, because his gameplay is extremely complex and it takes a lot to sort of understand how to just master all of his elemental combinations on the fly during a mission. So you can't really expect a new player to be able to like pilot Lavos successfully. He's tricky like that, but if you play Lavos, you can use abilities to your heart's content, because his stuff isn't based on energy, it's based on cooldowns. So, Hildrin, same. Any Warframe that doesn't base their stuff on energy, you can use abilities, which is great. Or you can pick an ability, or like a Warframe like Rhino, who just has some passive you active, and then you're fine. But any sort of Warframe that requires active ability use, where you're supposed to like ability spam, be it something like Grendel, be it something like Caliban, be it something like Ember, right? Ember is a super ability spammer. Be it something like Nidus. Well, Nidus doesn't really use energy either for some of his abilities, so he can also spam a bit. That's great. That's good. That makes him fun. Yeah, there's so many Warframes who just want to use abilities constantly to get the right feel, to actually make them feel the way they're supposed to feel. But you just can't as a new player. Now, something that's really interesting here to highlight how this is actually like a bigger deal than people might think is Styanax. See, Styanax was given to everyone for free for 2 weeks. So everyone has a Styanax. Everyone who was logged in during those 2 weeks. If you don't have Styanax because you didn't log in during those 2 weeks, then unfortunately you can only get him from Call's Garrison, Call's weekly break armor missions, and that's super endgame content. That is after the new war. So by the time you can actually farm for Styanax, you're going to be like several hundred hours into the game. which is kind of dumb because Styanax might be the most beginner-friendly, new player-friendly Warframe that they've ever released into the game. Ever. No exceptions. Styanax is the most new player-friendly Warframe ever. And you know why that is? It's for one single reason. He can regenerate his own energy. That's it. This Warframe bypasses the energy economy issues that all other Warframes have for new players. If you put in a chunky amount of like ability strength and some nice efficiency into this thing, the energy rate is so good that like you gain way more energy than it costs to like actually cast the ability. So Styanax, even for a new player, even for someone who doesn't have Arcane Energize, I don't even know why I have that in my Styanax, don't need to, but like even for a player who doesn't have Arcane Energize, if you play Styanax, you can actually get to feel what it's like to play Warframe, even when you're a new player, because you can use your abilities all the time. You can use your abilities all the time because he always has energy, because he can regenerate his own energy. So I saw Pablo talk during a dev stream about the fact that he was a bit surprised by Styanax's usage statistics. Because he was like, oh, okay, yeah, obviously people played Styanax a lot during those first 2 weeks when everyone got him, and that was expected. But then after that, Styanax's usage has remained surprisingly high. And people just keep on playing Styanax. They don't switch back to whatever they played before. They don't switch to something else. They just keep on playing Styanax. And I am willing to bet that this is why. This is because he is really fun to play if you are not an endgame player. If you are new and if you're still sort of like working your way up and you just want to go through the star chart, but you want to feel like a cool guy, you want to feel like a cool Warframe player, I bet it's really fun to play Styanax. Because you get to feel like one of the bad boys. You get to feel like a veteran. You get to feel like someone who has this cool endgame gear. And I don't think that's to be like underestimated how big of a deal that is for the enjoyment of the game. And I think this is something that is sort of holding back the popularity of the game a little bit. Because you always have to sort of explain to players that like, oh, no, what you're playing right now isn't really Warframe. Right now you're playing just this sort of like shooter that has cool mobility. But you don't get to really like pop off with your stuff. But this guy, look at this bottom right corner. Look at how fast I am regenerating my own energy. There's no other Warframe that can do that. So now I can cast an ability and it's fine, and then I can cast an ability and it's fine, and I can cast an ability and it's fine, and I can even do my cool alt, right? And hey, I can do my cool alt again, and then I can cast an ability and I can cast an ability, and I can do my alt, and then I can just regenerate my energy, and I can do it again. And that's what Warframe is supposed to feel like. I understand that Warframe is also a shooter. I understand that like the gunplay is just as big of a deal, and there are some Warframes that are more sort of like a gunplay focused or melee focused and stuff like that, and not every Warframe is just casting abilities all the time. I get that. But here's the thing, casting abilities is really fun. It's really fun. It's like the parkour. That's one of the most fun things about Warframe. Ability spamming is also one of the most fun thing about Warframe. I love Warframes that are like total ability spammers. That's why I think Caliban is like one of the most fun Warframes to play, because you're just constantly blasting abilities day and night. Like you cast 100 abilities per minute or something with Caliban. And that's great, that's fun. And new players don't get to experience that, like at all. Which makes me sad. Makes me a sad boy. So like my suggestion is actually the the entire energy system, the entire energy economy might need some sort of overhaul, because I think it is sort of holding back the accessibility of the game to a new player. You could make Warframe so much more fun right off the bat if you let new players have fun with abilities, though the same way that veteran players get to have fun with abilities. How do you do that? I don't know. Is it just a matter of tweaking the numbers? Is it a matter of like, maybe you should always start a mission with like full energy, right? Maybe it shouldn't start at 0. And this dumb thing about excess mod capacity being like the trick to sort of have energy at the start of the mission, unless there's like an aura mod for that as well. Let's see, do I even have it? No, I think you buy it in like the arbitration store or something. There's an aura mod that lets you start the mission with maximum energy. But like, why would you do that? You can just have excess mod capacity and you can get that instead. But that shouldn't really be a thing that you should like have to hack. Why not just let everyone start every mission with full energy so you can have a bit of fun with your stuff? Maybe energy orbs should drop more energy. I don't know. Maybe it shouldn't be relegated to the fact that certain Warframes, either they have arcane energy or they just don't function the way they're supposed to. And arcane energize isn't like the easiest thing to get either. You have to be pretty late into the game and do like Eidolon hunts. Or sometimes, as a Nightwave reward, you can get some arcanes as like one of the latest ones. This season it was Arcane Guardian. Sometimes it's Arcane Energize, but
That's all we have
still not going to give you like a max rank or anything. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a max rank. Even a low rank Arcane Energize, it's the same thing. It's a completely different game as soon as you get one, or like 3 of them that you get for Nightwave. As soon as you have Arcane Energize, it's just, now you're playing Warframe. Now you actually get to play Warframe, and it shouldn't be like that. Maybe all Warframes should have some sort of base energy regeneration, right? Like, I know there are like aura mods for that as well. You know, stuff like Energy Siphon, but Energy Siphon is so weak, and then it's disabled if you have like a channeled ability active, so it doesn't actually give you energy and stuff like that. It's so clunky. Maybe all Warframes should have some sort of base energy regen. So it's not just Styanax. He shouldn't be the only one who actually gets to have fun. I don't know. There are a couple of different ways you could do it. You probably don't have to like reconfigure the entire game around it. But actually letting new players have fun with abilities, I think, is important. That's it. That's the video. I've talked in previous videos about how there should be a better sort of like earlier opening to the story. I think you should have an encounter with the Lotus early on in the game, and she can tell you some stuff, give you like a bit of an exposition dump. Otherwise, it's not until like you get to the Nata quest and like you get to Uranus or something before you actually start to get to the real story of the game, which is way, way, way too late. I've talked about that in a different video. You can go and check out that video as well if you want to hear my thoughts about that. Link in the description. But this is another hook. This is another hook that can make Warframe more fun for someone who just, oh look, a free-to-play game, I'll install it, I'll try it out. I don't know what it's gonna be like, I have no idea. Oh look, it's got this cool mobility, wow, I can really run around. And also I can blast enemies with space magic, right? Add more space magic to the new player experience, and more people might stick around. That's my thoughts. Let me know in the comment section as always, what are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? How would you change the energy economy of the game if you would change it? And as always, I'll see you guys again tomorrow for something completely different.